What if I told you that the difference between living paycheck to paycheck and building generational wealth isn't about how much money you make, but about which level of financial intelligence you're operating from? John D. Rockefeller, who became the wealthiest person in modern history, understood something that most people never discover. He knew that money flows through 5 distinct levels of understanding. And tragically, 95% of people get stuck on the very first level their entire lives. If you're ready to discover which level you're currently on and how to climb higher, smash that like button and subscribe, because we're about to explore the financial intelligence framework that built empires. Money isn't just numbers on a screen or bills in your wallet. It's a language, a system, and most importantly, it's a mirror that reflects your deepest beliefs about yourself and what you deserve. The wealthy don't just have more money than you. They think about money in completely different ways. They operate from higher levels of financial intelligence, seeing opportunities where others see obstacles, building systems where others chase quick fixes. Rockefeller didn't just stumble into wealth. He climbed through each level of financial intelligence systematically, and by understanding these levels, you can begin your own ascent. But here's the catch. You can't skip levels. Each one builds upon the last. And trying to jump ahead is like trying to build the 10th floor of a skyscraper before you've poured the foundation. Let's start with the first level, the level where most people remain trapped their entire lives, completely unaware that anything higher exists. Level 1 is awareness, but not the kind you think. This isn't about being aware of your bank balance or knowing how much you owe on your credit cards. Real financial awareness is the brutal, uncomfortable recognition of your true financial patterns, behaviors, and beliefs. It's looking in the mirror and seeing not who you pretend to be with money, but who you actually are. Most people live in financial denial. They tell themselves they're just going through a rough patch, that their situation is temporary, that they'll get serious about money someday. They blame their income, their circumstances, their bad luck. But level 1 awareness means accepting that your current financial situation is a direct result of your financial intelligence level. Nothing more, nothing less. This awareness often comes as a shock. You might realize that you've been making the same financial mistakes for years, following the same destructive patterns, avoiding the same uncomfortable truths. You might discover that your relationship with money is driven by fear, shame, or childhood programming that no longer serves you. But here's what's beautiful about level 1. Once you truly see your patterns, you can begin to change them. Awareness is the first step toward freedom, even though it often feels like the most painful one. Rockefeller himself started here, as a young man working as a bookkeeper, meticulously tracking every penny and developing an intimate understanding of where money went and why. The key to mastering level 1 is radical honesty. Track everything for 30 days. Every dollar earned, every dollar spent, every financial decision made in emotion versus logic. Look at your money patterns the way a scientist studies data, without judgment, but with complete clarity. Most people skip this step because it's uncomfortable, but comfort is the enemy of growth. Once you've achieved true financial awareness, you're ready for level 2. And this is where things get interesting. Level 2 is responsibility, but not the surface-level responsibility most people think they already have. This is the deep, transformational responsibility that changes everything. At level 2, you stop being a victim of your circumstances and start being the author of your financial story. Every debt, every missed opportunity, every financial struggle becomes something you own completely. Not because you're perfect, but because taking full responsibility is the only way to gain full control. This level terrifies most people because it means giving up their favorite excuses. You can't blame your parents for not teaching you about money. You can't blame your employer for not paying you enough. You can't blame the economy, inflation, or bad timing. At level 2, you accept that your financial life is 100% your responsibility, which means it's also 100% within your power to change. Rockefeller mastered this level early in his career. When other businessmen complained about market conditions or unfair competition, Rockefeller was busy figuring out how to adapt and thrive regardless of circumstances. He took responsibility not just for his successes, but for his failures, which allowed him to learn from both. The transformation that happens at level 2 is profound. When you stop wasting energy blaming external factors, you suddenly have all that energy available for solutions. When you stop hoping someone else will fix your financial problems, you start developing the skills to fix them yourself. When you stop waiting for perfect conditions, you start creating opportunities in imperfect ones. But responsibility without strategy is just noble suffering. That's why level 3 is where most people's financial transformation truly accelerates. Level 3 is strategy, and this is where you start thinking like an investor instead of a consumer. At level 3, you begin to understand that money has rules, just like any game. And those who learn the rules have a massive advantage over those who don't. You discover the power of compound interest, not just as a mathematical concept, but as a life philosophy. You start to see money not as something to spend, but as a tool to acquire assets that generate more money. This is where you learn the difference between good debt and bad debt, between investing and speculating, between building wealth and just making money. You develop systems for saving, investing, and protecting your wealth. You start thinking in decades instead of months, planning for financial independence instead of just paying next month's bills. Rockefeller was a master of level 3 strategy. He didn't just start one successful business. He built integrated systems of businesses that supported and strengthened each other. He understood that real wealth comes from controlling assets, not just accumulating cash. He thought strategically about every financial decision, always considering the long-term implications. But here's where it gets fascinating. Most people who reach level 3 think they've arrived. They learn about investing, start building wealth, maybe even achieve financial independence. They look at level 1 and 2 people and wonder why everyone doesn't just follow their formula, but they're missing the two most important levels, the levels that separate the wealthy from the truly powerful. Level 4 is vision, and this changes everything. At level 4, you stop chasing money and start building legacies. You realize that true wealth isn't about accumulating assets for yourself, it's about creating value for others on such a massive scale that wealth becomes an inevitable byproduct. Vision means seeing opportunities that don't exist yet, problems that need solving, needs that aren't being met. It means thinking beyond your own financial security to how you can impact industries, communities, even generations. At level 4, you're not just managing money, you're moving it, directing it toward purposes larger than yourself. Rockefeller's vision extended far beyond personal wealth. He envisioned an integrated oil industry that could fuel America's growth, educational institutions that could advance human knowledge, philanthropic foundations that could solve societal problems. His wealth was massive, but his vision was even bigger. This level requires a fundamental shift in identity. You stop being someone who has money and start being someone who understands how money flows through society, how value is created and distributed, how wealth can be leveraged for purposes beyond consumption. You start thinking like a steward of resources rather than just an accumulator of them. But even vision isn't the highest level. Level 5 is identity, and this is where true financial mastery lives. At level 5, generating wealth becomes as natural as breathing because it flows from who you are, not what you do. You don't have to think about money strategies because you've become the kind of person who naturally makes wealth-building decisions. This identity shift is profound and often invisible to others. Level 5 people don't need to convince anyone they're wealthy, don't need to display their success, don't even think about money most of the time because their relationship with it has become so integrated into their being that it's automatic. They've developed what Rockefeller called the millionaire mind, a way of thinking that sees abundance everywhere, that finds value in everything, that creates wealth through the sheer force of organized thought and disciplined action. They've trained themselves to think long-term, to delay gratification, to see opportunities where others see problems. At level 5, your financial intelligence has become so developed that money flows to you naturally. Not through luck or manipulation, but because you've become the kind of person who creates tremendous value for others, who solves important problems, who builds systems that serve large numbers of people effectively. The beautiful thing about level 5 is that money becomes a tool for expressing your highest values rather than a source of stress or worry. You have enough financial intelligence to generate wealth consistently, enough wealth to achieve true freedom, and enough wisdom to use both in service of something meaningful. But here's the crucial point that most people miss. These levels aren't just about money. They're about personal development, character building, and the gradual expansion of your capacity to handle responsibility and opportunity. Each level requires you to become a different person, to develop new skills, new perspectives, new ways of relating to yourself and the world. The reason most people never progress beyond level 1 or 2 isn't because they lack intelligence or opportunity. It's because they're not willing to do the internal work required to develop higher levels of financial intelligence. They want the results of level 5 thinking while remaining level 1 people, and it simply doesn't work that way. Rockefeller understood this better than anyone. He spent decades developing not just his business skills, but his character, his discipline, his ability to think strategically and act decisively. He wasn't born with financial intelligence. He built it systematically, level by level, year by year. The question for you is simple, but profound. Which level are you currently operating from? And which level are you committed to reaching? Are you stuck in level 1 denial, pretending your financial problems will solve themselves? Are you progressing through level 2, taking responsibility, but still learning how to direct that responsibility effectively? Maybe you've reached level 3, and you're building wealth systematically, but you haven't yet developed the vision that would take you to level 4. Or perhaps you have big visions but haven't yet integrated them so deeply into your identity that they become automatic, effortless expressions of who you are. The path forward is always the same. Master your current level completely before attempting to move to the next one. If you're at level 1, commit to brutal honesty about your financial reality. If you're at level 2, take full responsibility for every aspect of your financial life. If you're at level 3, develop systems and strategies that can work regardless of market conditions. And if you're ready for levels 4 and 5, start asking bigger questions. How can you create value for thousands or millions of people? How can you solve problems that matter? How can you build something that will outlast your lifetime and serve purposes beyond your personal financial security? Remember, Rockefeller didn't become the wealthiest man in history overnight. He spent decades moving through these levels, developing his financial intelligence slowly but systematically. The same opportunity exists for you, but only if you're willing to commit to the journey and do the work required at each level. The beautiful truth is that each level is available to you right now. You don't need permission, special credentials, or perfect circumstances. You just need the willingness to look honestly at where you are, take full responsibility for getting to the next level, and commit to the daily practices that will develop your financial intelligence over time. Your financial future isn't determined by your current circumstances, your past mistakes, or even your current level of financial intelligence. It's determined by your willingness to grow, to learn, to develop the internal capacity that wealth requires and rewards. The choice is always yours, and the time is always now. Which level will you choose to master next? Your financial life won't change in a day, but it can change the moment you decide which level you'll rise to next. The wealthy aren't different from you because they were born special. They're different because they developed higher levels of financial intelligence and maintained the discipline to operate from those levels consistently. Comment below which level resonates most with where you are right now, and let me know which level you're committed to reaching next. Like this video if it shifted your perspective on what's really possible for your financial future, and subscribe for more insights into the mindset and strategies that build lasting wealth. The journey from financial struggle to financial mastery isn't complicated, but it is challenging. It requires you to become a different person, think different thoughts, and take different actions. But every level you climb opens new possibilities, creates new opportunities, and brings you closer to the financial freedom and security you deserve. The question isn't whether you can reach higher levels of financial intelligence, it's whether you will. Stop surviving and start building. Your future self is waiting.